name is William, and today I will take you on a tour on the marvelous and historic Great Road.
It was called Great because it was much more useful than any other routes through the Blackstone Valley. Great Road was built in 1683 as a major thoroughfare on the west side of the Blackstone River.
Now, let's begin our tour. And here we are, at the Friends Meeting House. The first Quakers in New England lived in Boston in the 1650s. They would later flee to Rhode Island to escape persecution. Rhode Island was one of the few places that offered sanctuary to those who believed in different gods.
The Friends Meeting House was originally built in 1704 and then expanded in the 1740s when the community grew. It became one of a chain of meeting houses that was established along Great Road for the Quaker community in the Blackstone River Valley. Stephen Hopkins, future signer of the Declaration of Independence, and the governor of Rhode Island at the time, was married in the house in January of 1755. The cemetery that contains the graves for many of the meeting house's former members is adjacent to the meeting house. One of the graves belongs to Stephen H. Smith of Hearthside. The Quaker Meeting House has been in continuous operation for over 300 years.
Our next stop is the Eliza Arnold House, and here we are, at the Eliza Arnold House. This magnificent mansion of Eliza Arnold has stood on Great Road for over 300 years. It is one of the oldest buildings in Lincoln. Eliza Arnold was one of the first original settlers and is said to be a founding father of the area.
The house was a tavern in the 18th century and entertained many notable guests, including General Comte de Rochambeau, leader of the French expeditionary force which aided the American victory in Yorktown. This building is also the finest example of a stone ender in the state, which is when the most distinctive feature is the great stone chimney that takes up the whole end of the house.
Now, let's continue our tour further to the Moffett Mill.
Now we have arrived to the Moffett Mill. The Moffett Mill is a small wooden mill believed to be built by George Olney around 1800 as an early machine shop. Around 1850, the mill in the surrounding area was purchased by Arnold Moffett, who upgraded the mill. Originally, it was powered by a wooden breast wheel on the Moshashook River and later powered by an iron turbine. In its history, it's been used for a dyeing shop, shoelace factory, wheelwright operation, and a blacksmith shop. The mill was especially noted for its production of corset lacing, which continued up to the close of the Civil War. Let's continue on our tour to the Hanaway Blacksmith Shop.
Here we are, at the Hanaway Blacksmith Shop. William Hanaway's blacksmithing operation had originally started in Moffett Mill. Hanaway later moved the site across the street. This was originally constructed as a carriage shop between 1870 and 1895.
In 1901, William Hanaway purchased the building and ran it as the blacksmith shop until the late 1920s. However, when the blacksmith shop was restored a few years ago, the blacksmith shop building itself was moved across the street to its present location at Chase Farm Park. Blacksmithing demonstrations are still being held there periodically. Let's continue our tour to the most notable historic building on Great Road, the Hearthside House.
We arrived at the Hearthside Mansion. The Hearthside Mansion was originally built by Stephen Hopkins Smith, the main manufacturer of the town of Lincoln in 1810. The Hearthside Mansion is said to be one of the most beautiful houses of the Federal period in Rhode Island.
Legend has it that Smith had been courting a lady from Providence who wanted the grandest house in the area. When the provincial winning of a $50,000 lottery made creating the Hearthside possible, Smith began construction. Once the mansion was completed, on a Sunday afternoon he drove his sweetheart past the mansion. When she remarked that she couldn't understand why anyone would build so far out in the wilderness, Smith took her home without a word and remained a bachelor for the rest of his life. As tragic as that story may be, hundreds of years later, this home is still recognized as being one of the most historic and recognizable homes in Rhode Island.
And now, we disembark on our tour to the Mowry Tavern. Now arrived at the Mowry Tavern. The Mowry family operated taverns in Lime Rock for well over 100 years. The Mowry Tavern was popular amongst travelers. It served for coaches traveling between Providence, Woonsocket, and Worcester along the Lewis-Quissa Turnpike. It also served as a popular place for room and board amongst travelers and those associated in the local lime industry. It continued in use until the Providence-Worcester Railroad eliminated the need for coach service in the 1840s. The tavern property was operated as a farm in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, and 2 functioning barns still remain on the property to this day. We will now finish up our tour at the last stop, which is the Valentine Whitman House. We have reached the final destination on a historic Great Road tour, the Valentine Whitman House. The Valentine Whitman House was built by the Whitman family in 1694. It was given to Captain Valentine Whitman Jr. after the original home was destroyed in the King Philip's War. For about 140 years, the villages that would become Lincoln were subject to the laws, ordinances, and government of the town of Smithfield. The first town meeting of Old Smithfield was held at the home,
Within these walls, the founding fathers of Smithfield passed their first ordinances and decrees, establishing a town council form of government, a system of taxation, and penalties for civil disobedience. The Whitman House is also a fine example of a 17th century Rhode Island stone ender.
And thus ends our historic Great Road Tour. I hope you enjoyed learning of our wonderful past and how our town came to be the place it is today. Thank you, and I hope to see you again soon.